In this video, we're going to go over how to find a linear model using Microsoft Excel for a data set that you've been given. So, it will be common for you to be provided a data set in your written homework assignments, such as the data set that we see here on the screen right now, in which or for which you've been identified that the data set is linear. So in this case, what we have is a data set that in the first column gives us the age of fish in days, and the corresponding column to the right gives the length of that same fish measured in centimeters. And the claim is that this data set is such that the length of the fish in centimeters can be linearly related to the age of the fish in days. And we want to come up with a linear model that models the length of the fish as a function of the age of the fish in days. When you have a data set like this, if it's been provided to you in Microsoft Word or some other word processing software, the easiest thing to do is just to copy and paste the data set into Microsoft Excel. We want length as a function of age, so length is going to be our output variable and age is going to be the input variable. And by default, Excel will assume that the second column is the output variable and the first column represents the input variable. So if you have the columns backwards from what you want to move them into the correct order so that Microsoft will automatically deal with your data correctly. But in this case, the data has been given to us, so that length is the second column, and we want length as a function of age, so age is in the first column. This data set is set up ready to go. So what you do is you highlight the two columns of data. You then go to Insert in Microsoft Excel and you insert a scatter plot. Do not do any of the connected lines. Those are not what we're after. Just a scatter plot with points plotted with no lines connecting them. So we'll select scatter plot. Once you do that, you want to click on that chart so that this quick layout option shows up. We want to select quick layout and select the layout that gives us the ability to have axis labels for the vertical axis, the horizontal axis, as well as the chart title. The series here is only needed if you're modeling multiple data sets in a single graph, which we're not doing. So first step is going to be to delete the series so that we don't have to deal with it. We need to give the chart a good name, and the format that we're going to use for our class is output, if I can type it correctly, output as a function of input. So we're going to stay consistent with how we've been identifying the as a function of relationship throughout the last few videos. So the output in this case is going to be length. So we're going to put length, the output variable, as a function of input. The input variable is age. Length as a function of age. And whose length is it? It's fish length as a function of age. We want to make sure we follow book title conventions, so everything uppercase unless we have things like prepositions, words like and the, they don't get capitalized, but for the most part we're going to capitalize everything. So we give an appropriate title to the chart. We then go down and label the vertical axis. This is our output axis, so this is fish length, and in parentheses I'm going to put in centimeters so that the reader knows what my measure of length is. For the axis title, for the horizontal or input axis, this is going to be fish age, and in parentheses tell them what the time measurement is, in this case in days. So we're measuring fish age in days. So when we get done, we should have an appropriate name for the output or vertical axis, an appropriate labeling or name for the horizontal or input axis, and the chart should have a title. When these are graded, we're going to be looking for capitalization where things need to be capitalized. We're going to be looking at grammar. So you need to make sure that you label these nicely. Don't get lazy. Give them good names. Check your grammar. Have somebody else check your work if you need to. Now what we want to do is add the linear function to the graph. So to do that, we click on any single data point. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Right click it and then go down to add trend line. Once we select add trend line, make sure that linear is selected, which is usually the default option. Then scroll down and say display equation on chart and display the r² value on the chart. The r² value is simply a measure of how well the line fits the data. So the closer this number is to 1, the more of the data variability is accounted for by the line that you have fit to it. So r² values close to 1 are good. The closer they are to 0, it tells you that your model isn't as good. What we're going to do next is highlight, click into the equation box, highlight it. We want to copy it, so it's not giving me the option to copy, so I'm going to go Control C to copy. And then we want to insert a text box. Control V to paste into that text box. And I didn't get it, so I'm going to try one more time here. Get rid of you, highlight, Control copy, insert text box, Control V to paste, and then I want to delete the original box. I'm going to drag this text box into some place on the screen where it's going to display nicely. Highlight the 2 rows, and now type Alt, push and hold Alt, and push and hold the equal sign, and it will format it into math type. So again, to do that, I highlighted, I did Alt, equal, Alt, and equal at the same time to put it into math type. Next step is to give it better variable names than X and Y. So we're doing length. So instead of Y, I want to represent my outputs with L for length, and X, instead of X represents days, so I'm going to use a variable capital D to represent days. So length as a function of days. And then when you get done, you want to take a look and make sure that it looks good. Does it have everything you need? Chart title, yes. Output axis labeled, yes. Units of measurement are included, yes. Horizontal axis labeled. Units of measure are there, it's in days. I have the linear trend line set. I have my linear model, which is in the y equals mx plus b form. This is a y equals mx plus b. This is the equation of a line. We've changed the variable names so that they are good variable names that represent the data that we have, and we included the r² value. So those are all the pieces that we will be looking for. And you can print the chart if you need to by selecting it and then hitting print. It will print just the chart and not the data. If you don't have the chart selected, then when you try to print, you get the Excel worksheet. So if you want to print the chart, you click the chart, then select print to get just the image of the chart. We can also right click on this and copy and paste it into Microsoft Word, and this should be something that looks good enough to go into a lab report for one of your science classes.